Well, thank you so much for this award. It means the world to me. I've been fortunate enough to win a couple of awards, but frankly, none mean more to me than that from peers and that from the patients who we serve. So I really could not be happier to accept this. So thank you to the AAAP, and I hope that my work will continue to be worthy of this award. Um, I was asked to say a few words, and I thought that being a psychiatrist filmmaker, I should probably show a few clips. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about how I came to do what I do as a psychiatrist and filmmaker, and then read a little bit from my book, Bedlam, which is something that I've written recently, and then show 32, 34 minutes from the film Bedlam, and then after which I'll offer some concluding remarks. So I guess one of the things that people ask is, how did you become a filmmaker as well as a psychiatrist? And I think that for me, and I'm sure many of you would probably agree, that being a psychiatrist is very much like being a filmmaker and very much like being a writer. You have to really dig into people's lives, you have to understand them, and you have to learn how to translate that into something useful. It's a different kind of skills when you're behind a camera, as I often am, different set of skills when you're in an editing room, as I often am, but still the essence of what we do as a filmmaker, as a psychiatrist, is pretty much the same for me, frankly. So I started doing this in medical school, and I was going to cut up a rat brain one summer, but decided I'd do something completely different. I would make a film about schizophrenia. And from then on, it became really part of my life. And my medical school and my fellowship and my residency were very, very kind and supportive of my work. Can't thank the people along the way who, can't thank enough the people along the way who helped me. Doctors David Previn, Dr. Alan Manovitz, Dr. Zyra DeFries, the very kind folks at Cornell Medical College, and who continue to be my colleagues and really endorse my work. And then my story is that after I finished my residency, I sent some of the films I had made over to HBO, and they said, you know, seems interesting, but we don't want to put on the films you've done. Why don't you come and make films for us? And I thought, this is fun. So I developed my practice, but also started then making 4 films for HBO and then a couple more for PBS. The most recent project I've done is called Bedlam. That was a film that was shown at Sundance and a book that was published on Penguin Random House. And I'm going to read just a little bit from Bedlam, that book, which is available for those of you who want to read it in its entirety. Then I'm going to show clips from Bedlam that give you a sense of what we're trying to do. But in this film, after making several films, 4 for HBO, 5 for PBS, I decided that it was really time to do something that really looked at the neediest patients that we have, the people who we often neglect, and the people who, frankly, I don't treat. I'm an addiction psychiatrist. Like most of you, I treat people with alcoholism. I have a subspecialty in compulsive sexuality. I treat people with behavioral addictions, and I've written quite a bit about that. But I thought the patients who we really neglected as a profession and as a society are those with serious mental illness. So I wanted to turn my efforts in making the last film I did to people with serious mental illness. And I also thought it was an opportunity to talk about my family. My own sister suffered from schizophrenia. And in the excerpt of the book, Bedlam, I'm going to read to you, I talk a lot about marital struggle. And it was really kind of a coming out experience for me, frankly, because I had not talked much about my sister's mental illness at all. So I'm going to read a little bit from the Penguin Random House book, Bedlam. This is from chapter 1. It had been 2 weeks since I'd spoken to Meryl, and I was afraid. For months, I'd been calling my sister every few days, cajoling, threatening, using every carrot and stick that I could to convince her to move to a facility that could care for her, and where she might find friends for the first time in decades. Finally, she stopped answering the phone. Now 55 years old, she had been living on her own for the first time since my mother died 2 years earlier. On December 27, 2005, after 14 days of silence, I rode the Metro North train home from work in my Manhattan office, focused on the task ahead. As an addiction psychiatrist, I spent the day treating people with depression, anxiety, and drug and alcohol problems. Over the years, I've received many notes of thanks from patients for saving their lives from their various addictions. But it had been years since I treated someone for schizophrenia. I lived a comfortable life commuting between my Upper East Side office and a bedroom community in Scarsdale. A loving and stable home I'd created with my wife and our children offered a complete departure from my chaotic childhood in Philadelphia. Now, the chaos was creeping back in. Despite all my psychiatric training and practice, I was at a loss for what to do about my sister. As the only other surviving member of our family, I was the last person left to care for her. Cancer had taken my father first, and later my eldest sister, Gail. Finally, my mother's passing left me in charge. I had been determined to find a reasonable plan for Meryl's well-being and had made arrangements with a convalescent home that could offer her a life free from years of hoarding that turned the house we grew up in into a hovel. But the longer my calls went unanswered, the clearer it became that I would have to betray my mother's dying wish that I never ever call the police on my sister. I walked the mile from the train station to my home and dialed Meryl yet again, picturing the beige telephone that sat on the island, separating the kitchen from the living room, where as a child I'd often watch TV while we ate dinner. I pictured the black phone that sat on the night table next to my parents' bed, the big bed, the comfortable bed, the bed where I jumped and played, the only bed near the TV, in the room with a bright view of the streets, the room where Meryl had recovered from her accident. An accident, by the way, which was when she nearly committed suicide by jumping out the bedroom window. And the room where we had one of the worst fights, and the room where she now slept. I knew that if I could even get the police to take Meryl to hospital, it would be nearly impossible to keep her there for long. I was well acquainted with the commitment laws, which dictate that you can't involuntarily hospitalize someone unless they declare themselves, let me just find my place here, declare themselves to be immediately suicidal or homicidal. One of the few exceptions in some states is when a doctor swears that the patient is so incapacitated that they can't feed themselves, not even at a shelter or by scavenging through garbage bags, the way an estimated 194,000 unsheltered homeless and the 552,000 total homeless people do every day in America. It was not unusual for Meryl to avoid me. In the 2 years since my mother's death, I had often called the emergency operator, who would report that the phone was off the hook. Call the police, they would suggest. No police, I thought. My sister would call me when she was ready. But this time was different. The phone was on the receiver. In a last-ditch effort to avoid the unavoidable, I reached out to Gail's, my sister's widower, my brother-in-law Bob, who lived nearby, to ask him to knock on the door. No answer. Mail was piled up on the doorstep. It was time to make the call. So thank you for allowing me to read that very personal story about how I discovered that my sister had indeed passed away from her schizophrenia. And it was those experiences which led me to make this film that I'm going to share with you, the film Bedlam. We'll look at 34 minutes of that, and then I'll come back for some concluding remarks. Thank you so much.
Mental hospitals like the one my sister was taken to were far from ideal, but they provided necessary care. In the 1950s, there were 558,000 patients in America's asylums. By the time I finished my training as a psychiatrist, 40 years later, over 90% of those beds were lost. Even the psychiatric hospital where I had just trained was demolished. Like most of my peers, I went into private practice. And like most of the graduating psychiatrists, I did not treat the seriously mentally ill. 20 years later, I wanted to understand why this happened in my profession. I spoke to 8 past presidents of the American Psychiatric Association and asked them how our country and our profession came to neglect our neediest patients.
The movement from state hospitals to community to jails and prisons is probably the saddest part of the story of 20th century and early 21st century American psychiatry.
That they threw everybody out of hospitals in the 70s. You know, that was the mistake for people who need custodial care for their whole lives. And we didn't even think of that.
I organized a conference at the association's annual meeting
And so many other illnesses.
about the role of psychiatry in this crisis.
And I have yet to find a single county in the United States where there are as many seriously mentally ill people in the county mental health facility as there are in the county jail. If anyone knows anyone...
I invited Dr. Fullertori, America's preeminent expert on serious mental illness.
During my practicing lifetime, most psychiatrists have not spent very much time taking care of people with severe mental illness. And I will say that, quite frankly, I have not been proud of my own profession over the years. I think in order to understand the disaster that we're looking at today, you really have to start in the early 1800s. The jails and what they called the poorhouses at that time, there was an increasing number of people who today we would say have serious mental illness, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, which we hadn't seen before. This was really a new phenomenon. And because they were increasing in numbers, people like Dorothea Dix and others said, it's really inhumane to leave these people in jail. It's not where they belong. So let's put them in mental hospitals. So then over the next 100 years, the number of people with serious mental illness increased very sharply. The hospitals kept being built and built and built. By the time you get to the 1950s, we have over 500,000 people in the state mental hospitals. Until the Kennedy program started, the states paid 96, 97% of all the costs of people who were severely mentally ill. The federal government had almost no money in the system at all. There was a huge incentive for the states to close down these hospitals because they effectively shifted the cost of the care of these people from the state government to the federal government. As soon as Kennedy became president, he both speeded up the emptying of the hospitals and he created a system of community mental health centers. Once the people were in the community, then they became the fiscal responsibility of the federal government.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present Mr. Nixon, who will present Governor Reagan.
During the 1970s, both Nixon and then Reagan had no understanding of mental illness. When Reagan took office, he stopped the federal funds that were going directly to the community mental health centers.
The excessive growth, government bureaucracy, and government spending.
So what Reagan was saying was, the feds should not really be involved in this. Let's give it back to the states. The states, of course, they didn't want it back. There's not any single Ronald Reagan to blame for it all. There's 10 presidents since 1960 who were all responsible for it. State governors, state legislatures, everyone's responsible for it. This is a 150-year-old disaster that has ended up being really the largest social disaster of the 20th century and now the 21st century.
You love your mama?
We're the love and peace people in all the world. Yes.
California has been the canary in the coal mine from day one because they were at the forefront of emptying out their hospitals. So today we are seeing problems in the emergency rooms as we're seeing them everywhere, but you see them worse in California where there are almost literally no state hospital beds left.
Let us know if you need anything else.
The emergency rooms are overrun with the people with severe mental illness.
Yes, ma'am.
So just because I just got off the phone with Mark Anthony, a couple things. When they take you to this other place,
yes.
One, just try to remember it's a hospital. It's not.
If there's no red dragons there, if there's a red dragon there, it's all bad. Because I'm the black. I don't get along with the red dragon.
Okay. I don't know if there are or not.
I'll find. No. Okay. Let me stop you right there. It really doesn't matter if there is, because if he's there, I'll take his ass out anyway. So it doesn't matter. Okay, go on.
But so they're gonna take you from here to there in an ambulance.
Okay, let me think about this for a second. Ambulance. Okay, so if the ambulance is going at its right rate, it should get me there in a certain amount of time. But if somebody tries to intrude and crash over and kidnap me and hold me hostage, then what are you gonna do? See, you gotta be able to answer these questions before you let me out this door.
Okay. They are gonna restrain you when you go, so you can just get prepared. I know it's a pain in the butt.
Restrain. When you say the word restrain, it's like a trigger.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, let me tell you. Okay, I'm gonna explain something to you real quick. When they say the word restrain, okay, it goes like this: 1, 2, restrain.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm kind of trying to give you a heads up.
I had no idea about mental illness. My mother had no clue. If you've ever, dealt with anyone who has any sort of psychosis, there's lots of fear. And so there's one moment when he was in prison where they had to do a cell extraction, which literally means take somebody out their cell, but how they do cell extractions are just horrendous. He was too scared, and so they started tear gassing him and macing him. And I mean, I just think that's what you do to enemy combatants, not people who are citizens of your country.
And in jail, how was he treated?
Oh, terribly.
For what kinds of crimes?
They're all like nonviolent, mostly crimes because he was in an episode.
Now you see me, now you don't. Blue. Plus. Clear.
This is just like a diary that I keep every time he goes into the hospital. This was back in 2013. It says in the late afternoon from Justine that Monty was breaking everything, refuses to see psych doctor. He had pulled the back door off the hinges and broke the glass. Monty tells the doctor he wants to rip the doctor's eyes out. The doctor is very calm. Monty is growling at security. Okay, it just goes on because this episode lasted last year for 27 days. This one, how long did this one last? Like 19 days, maybe? 19 days.
I just love my brother so much. And he's perfect to me. He really is perfect to me. So, I feel like when he was diagnosed and when our family sort of really had to come to terms with his diagnosis, I refused to allow it to tell a different story that I already had about my brother. And I refused to allow the stigma to sort of shape how I was going to relate to him. And if anything, it just brought us closer. And I made it a commitment to myself and for my brother that I was going to be with him no matter what. Every downfall and every jail sentence and everything that was around his mental illness, I was going to make sure that I was way more equipped to deal with it than I felt like really society was.
A lot of good people at the hospital, a lot of staff and inmate, so to speak. I got a lot of new friends, but they even said I could come back and visit if I want,
Let me cut that?
Yeah, just get scissors real quick.
Okay. You got it?
Yeah.
So it sounds like it was a positive experience, very much.
Yeah, it was rough at first. The first 3 days, I was in restraints. But after that, it was positive all the way through.
Yeah, one of the nurses said, "Are you
Yeah.
taking Monty home?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, he's so sweet." I was like, "Yeah."
Are you taking medicine now?
Yes, I'm taking my meds. I take Seroquel, Klonopin, lithium, and Zyprexa.
Does it make a difference?
Yeah, well, I feel fine. I feel better. I feel better than ever. You know, I feel healthy. I feel good. I don't feel no side effects like anything strange or anything, and it's okay.
Oh my God! Look at that.
Right here.
Do you want to let folks know that actually the food is done? Enough food is done for everybody.
Paul, I'm right here with Monty, Paul.
Yeah, Uncle Paul.
I'm right here with your nephew, Monty.
Just hanging out. I'm all right, feeling good. How about yourself? Just a welcome home party.
My mom didn't want to tell people about my brother's mental illness at first. She didn't. I think there's a lot of shame in Black communities in particular around mental illness. Shame is dangerous because shame makes you hide things. And when we hide things, we don't get the support we need. And when we hide things, we're not as honest and transparent about our needs. And I think that shame literally kills people. Shame kills our possibilities of having something different.
During a manic episode, Monty broke a window in a convenience store. With his sister's help, Monty's case was heard by a judge in a specialized mental health court program.
Number 10 on calendar is the matter of Monty. When we were here last, I said that you were going to be evaluated both by the deputy probation officer as well as by the Department of Mental Health. I've got a report about whether you would be a good candidate for this program. If you were to be placed into this program, it might do you some good. You're charged in count 1 with destruction of property with a value of more than $400. It's a felony. Do you understand the charge against you?
Yes, sir.
The maximum sentence for this charge, if I were to strike the strikes, is 3 years in custody. That would have to be served in state prison. That's not the sentence you're going to get right out the gate. But if you violate your probation, if you violate any of the terms of the treatment program, you could be sentenced to the maximum, and the prosecution will be asking for it. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes, sir.
You have to undergo mental health treatment at the direction of the probation department in consultation with the Department of Mental Health, most likely for up to a year. It's going to be tighter supervision than ordinary run-of-the-mill probation. But if you're willing to do it, we're willing to try and hook you up with the people who can help give you help.
Yes, sir.
Until the court could find a treatment facility that would accept Monty, he waited in jail for 4 months.
Just why safety, your safety.
Hey, man.
All right, this is why safety, your safety, all right? Relax. Let's see. The doctor will turn over you and takes him off, right? Just help us out. Come on.
What just happened is, these motherfuckers have been fucking with me for over fucking 20 years.
Okay. Okay. What I would like you to do is hang out in one of the seclusion rooms for a while. Okay? Without the handcuffs. But it'll be a locked room.
So now you want to put me in another cell. I spent
You-
the last 20 fucking years of my life. Come on, you fucking dick-ass cops.
Slow down.
You fucking punk-ass motherfuckers.
Slow down. We ain't messing with you. We ain't messing with you.
Yeah, you fuck are, man.
All
All these fucking cops around me. The fuck out of here!
Once you're ready, we'll take it.
When somebody is a mixture of both depressive symptoms and manic symptoms, which is the opposite of depression. It's a real irritable, angry kind of emotion, lots of energy, no sleep for days, which is what he's in the middle of.
Yeah, there you go. We want to work with you, man. We don't want it's...
We come to a fucking hospital, man, and I fucking get treated like I'm back in fucking prison.
Do me a favor, listen, just make your doctor.
All these fucking cops around me.
You want to get out of here? We'll get out of here. Talk to your doctor.
The fuck out of here!
Let's go. We'll get out of here.
It's hard sometimes to be compassionate, especially when, you know, they threaten to kill you and stuff like that, but he may have had abuse in jail. It's not uncommon. All I want you to do is take the Seroquel and the Klonopin and hang out in here with the door
In a
locked.
fucking cell.
Yes, I'm sorry that it feels like that to you. I'm not here to make you feel like you're in prison, but I gotta respect the safety of everybody here, including you.
Dr. Statement, please.
Klonopin, I get that one. I thought we had it locked. What's the deal?
Whoa.
I'm your doctor.
Whoa, I'm talking to a cop now. Somebody I know and respect who I've dealt with before.
I'm the one who ordered it, though, not the police officer.
Hey, if we have mutual respect, do me a favor. Just go back in your room, then we'll talk in there. How about that? Do that for me?
You guys are gonna lock me in there.
Well, it's up to the doctor. She's the one in charge. It's her house right now.
You know what's gonna happen when I come out of there? It's gonna be a cell extraction. I'm gonna come for her.
Okay.
I'm letting you know that right now. I'm coming for you.
Come on, bro.
Matter of fact.
Paul Green. Push the panic button. Push the panic button.
Get off my fucking back, man.
Did you look at his mouth or no?
No, he refused treatment.
Refused treatment. Hi, it's Dr. McGee. I would really like to know if you have any injuries. I promise I'll leave you alone. I just need to know if you have any injuries.
You did this to me. You're gonna pay for it.
I'm gonna listen to your hearts. What I see, especially from the emergency room, is this ridiculous merry-go-round. People get sick because they don't take their medication, and how can you ask people to take medication when they're living on the streets? I'm just straightening your leg. What do you need? We are still enjoying the gift of Reagan policy back in the 80s. We chose to go from keeping patients institutionalized their whole life to having them live on the streets. For whatever reason, we've decided as a nation that that's acceptable.
the mail window. People can use addresses. There's a mailbox. You get your mail right here. People don't have addresses, so people only got so much fight in them, you know. It's either fight or run. I've been fighting for so long. I go back and forth from fighting to running, fighting to running, fighting to running. You know, it's like a big circle. Right now I'm fighting again. You know? Because probably of my medical situation, and I don't want to die on the streets. But a lot of people down here suffer from either drug addiction or mental health issues, and that's why they're down here. It's sad. It's really sad. You know, I suffer from it, and these people suffer from it, and there ain't no help nowhere. We just keep going around in circles, and we get nothing. It's just sad. Whatever place is going to put me in the quickest place is where I want to go. You understand? Whatever place comes available that says, yes, we can move them in the next couple of weeks, that's where I want to go.
We've already contacted managers. We're waiting for the managers to give us the okay in terms of their vacancies. So we can come
So
and view
why
the
did I
units.
come down here today?
Well, you came down. Well, remember we scheduled this meeting last week, and I haven't been able to reach you all last week.
My phone's dead.
We had Monday and Tuesday to work with you this week. We thought we were going to have an entire week, maybe 5 or 6 days.
So what are we going to do?
I'm going to follow up with the advocate, see who's called back, and we'll go from there. We'll discuss your options, and then if this is something you want to do, then we can
We've discussed and discussed and discussed. Can't we just find an apartment? I got AIDS. I was shooting drugs behind somebody that had it, and they never told me, and I ended up catching it. Life has shit on me all my life.
Well, how are you doing?
I'm depressed a lot about the housing thing, you know, and
A lot of people have told me how slow and frustrating it is. But what is the holdup now? What don't they have?
I don't know. I went and did a walkthrough, and
Yeah.
then I thought I was gonna do an application on Friday, and now they're telling me I have to go do an application somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a rental history. I've been homeless so many years because of my mental health.
There's a lot of red tape in housing, but once you get it, you get it. It's kind of like a little obstacle course, but do it.
This whole trying to do things normal is frustrating the hell out of me, because I'm not normal.
At the mercy of your moods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, how many years have I been with mental health? What, 43 years, and they still haven't fixed me. I ain't saying it's you. But after 43 years, you figure somebody could get it right.
Now we have the Alexandria who have the actual property. So you have the unit.
So when am I moving in?
Because this is like a new voucher, I'm hoping that they will give us your notification that you can move in the next 2 days.
Hoping.
We're waiting for other people on the property to
No sense to me, man. You know, who's somebody sleeping on a goddamn sidewalk, but he's got a fucking apartment.
Key 3 fucking times! No! Fucking homeless on a fucking skywalk! And he's got a goddamn fucking roof! He's got a fucking roof! And he can't get it! He fucking can't get it! I got it! I don't understand it! I fucking don't understand it! Motherfuckers!
That's a big one. Yay!
Congratulations.
4 years, man. 4 years.
Thank you, Steve.
Push it up forward a little bit, please. Push it forward a little bit. Cool. Should I cut it open? Yeah, okay.
After completing treatment ordered by the court, Monty had a job for the first time in years.
What's up, dog? I know Jesse. Yeah, I know you, dog.
Good, man. I haven't seen you in almost over 20 years, man.
That's funny, a little boy. Looks just like you. Okay. Yeah. Not everybody that has a mental illness is a monster.
Have people treated you like a monster?
Well, yeah, basically, yes. They're like, oh, there goes that guy. He's a bad guy. Oh, he did this and that because he had a mental illness. That's what my life story is. I just want to just live, and be happy and just be left alone,
I got your number. I'm gonna text you so you can have my shit, okay?
All right, you see it.
All right, please apply your attention. Recognizing the principles for which is that Department 126 of the Superior Court of the County of Los Angeles is now in session. Please be seated and come to order.
Todd was arrested. Unlike Monty, his case was heard in a criminal court.
The court has had an in-camera review. The proceedings are sealed, and discovery will be turned over by 4:25.
And, Your Honor, I would also like to ask for a OR release on compassionate grounds. His T-cell count has plummeted to the double digits during his time of incarceration. This is a non-violent offense. The strikes are over. Bail is set at $10,000, and he lacks this 10% premium to get himself out of jail.
I'm sorry, you've got a strike on your history. I'm not inclined to release you at this point.
How many years will I have to pay for that? How many times do I have to pay for that?
You'll have to talk to your attorney about that. Okay, the request is denied. Matter is continued to May 4th, 2016.
I don't think any police officer or DA can explain to me why a guy who's supposedly doing hand-to-hand drug sales in an amount less than $10 is a menace to the public safety, and why he needs to spend over 3 months in jail while he awaits his trial. His health has plummeted since he's been inside. His T-cell count is now in the double digits. Basically, the system provides him just enough so that he won't die on their watch, but that's about it.
After 3 months in jail, Todd lost his apartment.
This is Eyewitness News.
Hundreds of protesters shut down a busy downtown Los Angeles street. Why they put homemade jail cots in front of the supervisor's office.
The 100 replica jail beds we've created are far cry from the upwards of 6,000 the county is trying to build.
We can't get well in a cell.
People with severe mental illness deserve care. Holding people and warehousing them in jail cells is not going to be the way.
We have historically not fought for people with mental illness. People are rising up and saying, we are sick and tired of our families being thrown away, being disposable. We have to be a part of a growing movement that's trying to change the course of history.
They don't need to be subjected to mental health conditions. We deserve good education. We deserve mental health care. We deserve food
This is not complicated. Treat mental illness the same as every other illness, and we will make an enormous difference in tackling the challenges that face us.
It's a very busy day today. Today is July 4th. All the beds in the community for inpatient psych are all filled, so we're going to get everything under the sun this afternoon and this evening.
So I'm going to help you guys for a few hours. Let me help you knock these notes out. Is there anybody in particular that is more complicated that I can help with?
No, I think I signed up for those.
All right.
Are you DCing him or keeping him?
No, he's history of agitation, family bonding.
Okay.
So your last day in the ER is August 1st. Is that going to be a day of joy or a day of sadness?
Fuck yeah.
So has your experience here in the ER left you drained?
Yes.
So you wonder how anyone could do this on a continuous basis, correct?
I don't wonder. I know people do it. I just have my limits. I'm quitting because it's a workload that's not manageable. My responsibility has to be to being the best doctor I can be. So I sort of developed a way to cope. It's just gone on too long. As long as doctors tolerate these working conditions and the outside world won't know what's going on or understand what's going on, then nothing will ever get better. The definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over and expecting different results. The way we treat mentally ill in this country is insane. To not have access to regular food, housing, medication, medical care, it doesn't make for a good American story.
So thank you for watching those clips of Bedlam. Bedlam was premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. I'm very proud to say it was the first film that Sundance ever showed about serious mental illness, and I'm very happy to say it was met with standing ovations. It went on to win a Columbia duPont Award for Outstanding Television Journalism for the year 2021. And, I hope to do many more films like that. Documentary filmmaking is kind of a labor of love. Fortunately, I have a very good day job as a psychiatrist. And fortunately, I have the support of my friends and family and loved ones. But what's really useful and important is kind of acknowledgements like the one you're giving me today. I really, again, can't thank you enough and can't thank the entire AAAP and all my colleagues, peers, and friends for supporting my work, and hope that I could live up to the importance and worthiness of this award. Thank you.